Hey, what's going on, folks? Bienvenue. My name is Wade, and this is Sabine River Valley. A couple of months ago, I did a few videos on the Victory M ATV 48XT ATV Flail Mower. This impressive mower is great for someone who has a small homestead and might not own a tractor, or even someone who wants to cut trails or clean areas that their tractor can't get into. I've used this mower quite a bit, and I can definitely see the appeal to it. Well, today I want to introduce you to the heavy-duty version of that mower. This here is the Victory M ATV 52 HD ATV Flail Mower. It comes in at 300 pounds heavier than the XT version and includes an impressive 24 horsepower V-Twin engine. There's actually a long list of upgraded features on it, and we'll go through that. But first, let's get this mower unpacked and put together. So this is it. The plastic goes under it and it's pretty heavy, so I'm gonna have to wait till I get it, like roll it off before I can get that plastic off of it. But I've seen a couple stickers messed up on it. Right here, a little bit of paint messed up. Sticker right there. But everything else on it looks pretty good. There's that big V-Twin. Loncin? Is that how you say that? That's a big motor. I mean, like, that's a proper big motor. I wasn't expecting it to look like that at all. Wow. All right, so I'm gonna reach down under here and open this. And hopefully there's a dry manual in here. There we go. Oh, we got a tip for an exhaust pipe and a manual, and it does feel dry. There are some more components in here too. But there is a manual for, looks like the motor, and then the manual for the actual mower in there. All right, so in the manual, the first thing that it wants us to do is to install the triangular protection braces. So that's what we're gonna do here. And I believe that's these. Next up, we need to install the towing assembly. It is just a couple of pins, a washer, and then this rod that goes through. If the battery was out of the way, it would. Yeah, all right. That'll be easier. Get in there. Okay, so the next thing that we need to do is, this is the adjustment level assembly. And since we're here, this is one of those things that on the other mower, I wanted it done this way, and that is the adjustment is on top instead of underneath. On the other mower, it's underneath. It's hard to get to. Makes it really tough to do in the field, especially. Well, this one has it on top, and we need to connect this. And I love this. This is great. If you've used any of these, you had that on the bottom, you'd understand how much more beneficial this is. And I'm gonna throw all my hardware on the ground and make it harder for me to get to. That's the way I like to do things. Let's see. That's too much. Maybe not. Oh. Ha. All right. The next thing that we need to do is install the wheel assemblies on both sides. And what this does is the wheels for this aren't meant to be used when you're actually cutting. The wheels are just there to get this to and from where you're cutting. You rely on the roller that's on the back of this. This is a flail mower, so you rely on that roller for the mower to actually roll on across the ground. You do not use the wheels for that. When you're putting this on, make sure that these have zerks on them. Make sure your zerks, they're different on both sides. So make sure your zerks are pointing out away, because there's a chance that this gate could hit it if it comes up, or it might just be in a position where you can't get to it. I would put those on the outside. Large plane washer. Is that what that's calling that? No, that would be... That goes on this piece. A large plane washer, okay. Down here, it does sort of look like that in the book. It's tiny. Tiny, tiny. It calls it an adjustment board. So you've got this M10 by 25, a spring washer, crush washer, lock washer, whatever you want to call it. And then I'm guessing it's calling this an adjustment board that goes through that. And it does, I mean, it all goes into that pin in there. It's coming out, see? I'm guessing that's what it is. I guess we'll do it and send it, huh? That's on. Good night. All right. Also in the book, it shows that the axle that your wheel's going to go onto is already mounted into here. So maybe originally they were going to ship those together when they made the manual, and they did not. So what we can try to do is go back into there's a exploded diagram for everything in the back. And we can come back here and look. It doesn't really tell me anything on how to do this. So Now here's the thing that bothers me about this. The manual doesn't show instructions to mount this piece to this piece. In the manual, it looks like these are already put together. So what worries me is where you bolt this in at is going to affect what this adjusts. So, and I don't know that I'm gonna know that this is right until, I don't know when I'll know it's right. I'll find out if it is. I just hope it's not in a time when it's gonna be a lot to take apart, right? And real hard to work on. Because whenever you turn this, this moves this up, right? It gets the wheel out of the way. Is this, where it's sitting, going to be enough to get the wheel above this to keep the wheel from touching the ground while the mower is mowing? I hope so. I mean, maybe it will, but I don't know that for sure. We'll find out here in just a little bit, though. I wish there was a mark that said, you know, like here to here, right? So you would have known when you put this on, that's where, you know, that's where that lines up at. That might be it. So I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, and then we'll see if we can lift it off the ground. All right, now I've got both wheels put on, and what I need to do is lower these down, and hopefully I can lower them enough to take them off of the pallet underneath, and then we'll be able to move this thing. All right. This side's a lot heavier because of that engine on top. All right, all the way. Oh yeah. Here we go. Look at that. Roll this back. Man, that's not that difficult to lift either. All right. Well, so we'll take a break tonight. It's getting dark. I know the camera, you can see me, but that's just the sensor in the camera. Really, it is getting fairly dark out here, getting harder to see. So, and the bugs, man, the bugs are out now. But we'll get started back on this hopefully tomorrow. So, which will be right now for you guys. All right, so we are inside the garage. It's the next day. It actually feels really good at the moment. It's earlier in the morning, so I don't know if it's gonna get hotter or not, but right now we've got cool air blowing in, so it feels good. We're gonna go over a few things. So, was able to get the wheels on and get those kind of in the right position, I believe. It looks like that they will come all the way up when I need them to be off the ground, and then they're low enough, you know, they can be adjusted low enough that this thing rolls very easily. I'm gonna tell you something. This is a bigger mower. This one is a beast. And this thing is super easy to, now I've got it balanced right now, but this thing is super easy to pick up from the ground. I mean, much easier than the other mower. I don't know why that is, but this is a very easy mower to lift up. So I've got it lifted right now, and I've got it because, you know, eventually we're gonna need to top this off with fluid and stuff, and I want it to be level. But so it's just real easy to get that set up. What I'm gonna do now though is, because we've got everything kind of where it needs to be, in the manual there is a torque specification guide. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go around with a torque wrench and I'm gonna torque down all my bolts to what they're supposed to be, because I don't know if they are or not. I just want to check that. So if I can, I don't want anything coming loose. So, you know, on a tractor, when you're using a tractor, every, 10, 20 hours or so, you're supposed to go out there and torque down all your bolts, right? You're supposed to go check that and make sure that they're good and torqued down, because the way that we use these things, there's so many vibrations and everything going on while you're using them. Well, this is going to be the same way. So you're going to want to torque down any bolts that you have, and you're going to want to check those, every 10 hours, every 20 hours. So the next thing that I want to do is I want to check the roller height. That's actually step 4 in the manual. And so remember that when you're using a flail mower, the rear roller is what you use for the major height adjustments on a flail mower. You can lower it to get a higher cut, and then you can raise it to get a lower cut, a shorter cut. Then on this, you would use the tow bar adjustment right here up front. You could adjust that to allow the front of the mower to come down, a little bit, and you could get kind of your micro adjustments with that. So on a tractor, it would be your top link. So your roller would be the main adjustment, but then you could get your micro adjustments with the top link on a tractor. That's why a hydraulic top link is always a great addition to a flail mower, because you can make those adjustments on the fly very quickly. You don't have to get out and sit there and struggle with a manual top link. But one of the cool things about this mower, I kind of wish that we had this on the big flail mowers, is this adjustment right here to open the rear gate. So this flail mower has a rear gate, and there are a couple of uses for a rear gate. Number one is that you can, if you need to do any work, if you need to change a blade or something like that, you can easily get to it by raising this up. You don't have to lay down underneath or try to raise this up with pallet forks or something. You can just open your rear gate, you can do your work. But also, if you get into some material that's really thick and heavy that a flail mower might struggle with, maybe it's super wet or maybe it's just really thick, then you can open this up and it will work more like your regular rotary cutter. Brush hog, bush hog, whatever you call it where you're from, it would cut more like that. It would just be a single cut and then it would throw it out instead of mulching. That's what a flail mower does really well, is it cuts the grass, but then keeps the grass in the drum and continues to cut it and mulches it up. So within the drum, you've got this just massive amount of material staying in there getting cut up. That's why flail mowers are a little bit harder on an engine, on a PTO, something like that, because they're doing all that work. Where if you were just using a regular rotary cutter, it just chops it and throws it out. It doesn't continue to try to chop it up. It might chop it up just a little, but it's not mulching it. So rear gates are great, but opening rear gates, usually it takes taking out bolts to open them up and then putting the bolts back into another groove on the rear gate. Well, this one here doesn't have that. It's got this mechanism where you can turn this and this will raise the rear gate. I think I'm gonna like it. I know that I've turned it once just to try it, and it takes a second to get it up there. It takes some work to do that, but I wouldn't have to have, like if I was out cutting and I got into a section where all of a sudden it's bogging my tractor down on my other mowers, I wouldn't have to get out there with tools to get that rear gate open and locked up. All I'd have to do is just walk to the back and give this a turn and it would open it up. So I really, really like this. I'd love to see this on tractor flail mowers, Victory, in the future. I would absolutely love to see this. Maybe it's a combination of two on, one on each side. I don't know, something, but I really, really like this. Maybe you just need a bigger mechanism for bigger mowers. But anyway, so we're gonna open this up. We're gonna look down in here and see where this roller is set and see if there are any adjustments we can need to make. So yeah, let's do that real quick. All right, so now with the rear gate up, we can get a good look underneath here. And you can see, here are our hammers. So big drum, we've got some finger wide hammers. I don't know, what's that about? 2.5 inches, maybe somewhere around there. So that all looks really good. So let me see if it's possible to adjust this roller here and get it any lower. So down here, there's a grease sticker on mine, and the grease sticker is actually covering up 2 holes. So there are 2 holes that will allow you to drop the roller. And I'm going to need to move this grease sticker. There is underneath, if you can see that right there, there is an area to take grease for the roller itself. So the sticker is in, pointing to the right place. It's just keeping us from getting to those holes. So I'm going to have to take this off and move it. So I'm just going to move that over. I don't know if that'll stay now, but there, now you can kind of see those holes. My fingers are going through them. Let's see if I can get a good view of them down here. Yeah. All right, so I lied. I put it in the second hole, in the middle one. I didn't put it in the bottom. I dropped it to the bottom and looked at it, and it was super low. And I know that a lot of times you can get like an 8-inch cut on flail mowers when you have that down there, and I don't necessarily want 8 inches. Right in the middle, maybe 6 inches is what I'd like with this. So I went ahead and put it in the middle. Then I can adjust it again with the tow bar if I need to get that up a little more. So that's where we're gonna try it. I hope that works out. I could be right back here adjusting it again. It wasn't hard to adjust once I found out what tools to use. It wasn't hard to adjust at all. So, but I might be back here again adjusting it later. But I do have it in the middle, and I feel good about it right now just looking at it. So yeah, on to the next step. All right, so the next thing to do is to check the drive belt tension. So let's get that done. All right, so just to be honest with you here, when the wheels are in this position for towing, you can't get the drive belt cover off. They are, this bracket down here that the wheels are actually mounted to just won't let it come off. And I've sat here and fiddled with it for 10 minutes, and I can't figure a way to get it off with this like that. So I'm gonna try dropping or raising the wheels, dropping the mower down, and see if that allows me to pull this off. I don't think it's gonna do it. Nope. I would, to get this box off, or the cover, I would have to take this piece of the wheel off. And I am not a fan of that. All right, so now I can see them, so I can push them in about 15 millimeter, which is what you're supposed to be able to do on the belts. They're all about the same. Now the belt tensioner is on this side. I just looked that up. This is part of it. There's a nut down there that you're going to screw. It's going to allow you to tighten this up. Here's the problem. I can't do that. I can't work on that with the cover on. So that cover has to come off to if I want to tighten the belts, or I need to replace a belt. So if that's what you're doing, if you're tightening or replacing these belts on here, you're gonna have to take that wheel bracket off to get this cover off. And I'll talk to Victory about it, and let them know what I'm seeing, and maybe in a future iteration of this, we can see this done a little differently. So the next step is for engine oil. So we're going to throw the oil in here. We'll throw it in, see how much we can get into it when we throw it. We're going to put some engine oil in this thing, and then I think we're getting close. I think we're getting real close. So let's do that. All right, so this is the drain port. I believe there's one on the front. Also, there is, but it's kind of covered up by the battery box. But this is the drain port that I'm going to use right here. The manual says that this thing doesn't have any fluids in it when it's transported, you know, for sale. But when I pulled the dipstick, there was just a little bit of something on the end of it. So I'm going to go ahead and open this up. They might have just had something in the factory when they were putting it together. You know, some type of oil in there while they were putting pieces together, just to, you know, keep any rust or anything from happening. So I'm going to open this up, see if anything like that comes out, and then we'll close it and, you know, fill it back up. The other thing I've done is here, if you can see it, I've made sure that this thing is level in both directions. So so this thing is level in both directions. That way when I, you know, fill it up, we're getting a true reading on that stick. So let me figure out what size that is, and then we'll get that off. All right. Yeah, there's a little bit of something in there. All right, so the manual calls for 10W30, so that's what I'm putting in. I found some mobile 10W30. I couldn't find, you know, I like Valvoline, that's what I usually go with. Everybody was out of the 10W30. So I like mobile brand, so I trust them. So that's what I'm gonna put in here. And there's this on both sides. You can do this on both sides. So there's a fill plug right here. It actually says that if you aren't replacing the oil filter, it'll take 1.6 liters. But if you are replacing the oil filter, it'll take 1.8. Well, this engine hasn't ever been fully filled up, I don't think. So I don't know what to think there. So that's why I'm going to start with 1.5. That keeps me under the 1.6. And then we can just add a little bit more if we need to. All right. All right, so that's one. So we'll put in 500 milliliters. Okay, so now we've got oil in the engine. We want to start it up. We want to crank it up because it uses a thread-on filter, and we need to fill that up and then go back and check the oil level, because I'm pretty sure we're going to need to add some. But before we do that, we need to be able to put fuel in this thing. And this mower comes with a plastic fuel tank here that sits on top, and then you run your fuel line over to the engine. Well, there's no set way on here for this to run, and I really wasn't sure how best to do it, and I'm still kind of working that out through my head. I think I'm just gonna do it, and then we'll see how this ends up. But on the website for Victory, they have some photos. Now on theirs, this is turned. So I'm guessing that over time, you know, they realized that this might be better sitting this way. So it's a little different than what is in the photos on the website. But what they have is they've included these clips that will stick to the mower, and you can run the hose or the fuel line through this clip and kind of lock it down into place. And you know, they just show this ran on the mower, and I really think, you know, as long as you keep it up out of the way, you know, you make sure that it's not going to get, you know, fall down or get snagged on anything, you can really kind of put it in the best place you think it should go. And so that's why I'm like, you know, I don't even really know where to run it yet. I'm just going to go with it and see if we can figure this out. So yeah, that's what we're going to do now, is try to figure out where to run the fuel line. So I think I'm going to put this maybe right here. And lock that down like this. And then I think what I'm going to do is pull this to where I want it and cut this line here so I don't have all that extra. And folks, I wouldn't really worry about this. Try it and see. You can get this fuel hose just anywhere that's very inexpensive. So I mean, the worst thing is that you have to, you know, you try it and you don't like it and you cut it somewhere and you cut it too short and you got to get us some more hose. But you can pretty much go to any automotive shop and buy this. You can get it on Amazon, have it delivered to your house, whatever. So I wouldn't worry, I wouldn't stress too much over this, but get it, you know, get it to where you're comfortable with it. I might get it where I'm comfortable with it right now and get out in the field and go, you know what? That's not a good place for that. And so I might have to change it. So just know that that might be something that you have to do and be okay with it. All right, so now we have the fuel line run. Hopefully we've got it in a good spot. And yeah. So this is ethanol free fuel. So right here at the front of the mower, right here below, this is that spin-on oil filter right here. Right below this is the battery box. So the last thing that we need to do is connect up the battery. So ground is already connected, and we just need to add the hot wire. So I'm going to run the power cable, the hot, through here. I will through there. It's going to come through the battery box, and then you put it on this. All right, the other thing that we need to do is that this is a safety shutoff switch, and I personally highly recommend using this. So, but it has to be engaged for this to be able to start. So this little clip here, it goes up under and pushes this button up. And if you had this on you and you were to fall out of the UTV, it will pull that off and then the system will shut down. Okay, so we've got oil in the system. We have fuel, and we've got that ran and connected. We have the shut-off safety switch engaged up there. So here on the engine, you've got the key to turn it on and off. You've got a manual throttle. This also has a throttle that you can run up into the ATV or UTV with you to control that. But you have an actual throttle here on control on the engine also. And then you got your choke here. So I think we're ready to crank this for the first time. I don't see anything else that we might be missing. So yeah, I guess let's see if we can turn her on. All right, so I'm gonna choke her, and I'm gonna turn the key. Figure out what's going on with that. All right, let me show you what I'm doing here. So this bulb for pumping the fuel, there's an arrow on it, and it's pointing back towards the tank. So we're gonna flip that around and see maybe if it is on backwards. Yeah, there it is. Oh, a little bit of fuel came out. Now it took me a while to wiggle this down, but you can wiggle this backwards. I just used a small flathead screwdriver, you know, to get that around that barb on the end of that. And it's on both sides. So, oh. Fuel is going everywhere. I think that was it, folks. I think that was it. Maybe crack the fill port on the tank if you do this before you do that to relieve some of that pressure. So now I gotta let me clean this up and then let that dry. All right. See what she does. Choke. That sucker wanted to run. She wanted to run. All right. All right, that sucker fired right up immediately. She definitely wanted to run. So, and I'm telling you that's a good size engine. It's a 764 cc. So they're saying about 24 horsepower. That is noticeably different than the one on the XT model. So that is a big boy right there. That sucker, I mean, she took off, and I almost wanted to pull my feet off the ground. You know, I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Feels like she's gonna take off. But anyway, okay. So let me let that sit for a second, and then we'll check and see if we need to add more. And just a note on that, I was told by Victory that you should only fill this to about 3/4 of the way full, because when it's out there bouncing around out in a field or something, you know, that's a lot different than an engine on a road or something, where, you know, this thing can be bouncing pretty hard out there. You could start to see some white smoke come out, and so almost like it was overfilled. So they said to kind of keep it around 3/4 of the marker on there. So that's what I'm planning on doing. All right, so we'll check that, and then we'll get ready to take her out for a spin, right? All right. Okay, so we're really ready to go ahead and set this up, hook it up to the UTV to take it out and cut. But I wanted to kind of talk about something real quick that I think this is really important. If you'll notice right now, I've got this thing, it's on the wheels, right? The wheels are down, and the mower is on the wheels. And technically, you could cut and pull this with those wheels down and roll it with the wheels down. You could technically do that. It's not designed to be done that way, but you could technically do that. You could just lower the wheels, or I guess you'd be raising the wheels and lowering the mower, and you could kind of use that to adjust your cut height. But I'm going to tell you why I don't think you should do that. When you're cutting with this, it is spinning those blades, right? So those blades are going across the mower, and it's spinning those, and what it's doing is it's continuously throwing those around in the drum and mulching whatever that material is up. But there's a possibility that it can be thrown forward. And so on this one, you have these heavy chains here. Some will have little metal panels, whatever, but you have this protection here to keep it from throwing it forward at you. Well, when you have this mower on the wheels, if you'll notice, there is a large gap missing here with no protection. So if you raise this up on the wheels and use those wheels as your height adjustment, you are putting yourself at risk, especially if you're on an ATV pulling this, because you have nothing behind you protecting you. Your back, your head, everything is just wide open. In a UTV, you might have a little more protection, but there's still a very good chance that something could get hit. A rock, if you came across a rock could get hit and be flung up at you, and it could hit you in the back of the head, in the back, in the neck, something like that. So there's a potential, if you use these wheels to do this, that you're putting yourself in danger of this throwing material at you. And that's why I recommend do not do that. Use the roller, the adjustment of the roller for your major height adjustment, and then use this turnbuckle on the tow bar for your micro adjustments after you've set the roller where you want it to be. And that'll give you different cut heights. But you know, just please don't use the wheels. That's not what they're meant to do. And if you do that, you are basically putting yourself in danger of getting material flung up at you. So, and even if you're in a UTV, right, that has a cover, maybe you've got a cab that's fully enclosed. Well, a rock could come up and, you know, could shatter glass, or could, you know, it can put dings into the back of your UTV. I mean, it can still do damage that you don't want done by doing this. So I recommend, the manufacturer recommends, Victory recommends, do not use the wheels for cutting. You raise those wheels all the way off the ground when you're going to cut, and let this mower sit on the roller as intended. All right, so these come with these brackets, and this is what you're going to connect the emergency cutoff switch to. Basically, however you want to do this, it just kind of threads through here. And you can have this connected however you want it. And then you can clip this down to your, you know, to your side somehow on you. So if you were to come out of the UTV, you know, it would pull this and it would cut the engine off. All right, so I'm going to keep that there. So for the throttle cable, it has its own little bracket to wrap around a post like this and screw down and tighten down. But it just, I didn't really like that because it's not easy to get on and off. So I put this bracket. I found this, I think it's a bracket from Nylite. I found it on Amazon that fit around the, you know, my little grab handle here. These are different sizes on different UTVs. So just kind of measure yours, and then you can order something like this. And that way I can take one of these and a wing nut, and I can just slip this through and then put the wing nut on, and I can take it on and off whenever I want to. So that's what I'm doing. Just kind of get it into position I like. Go. And then we've got our throttle cable set right there. So one other thing on the throttle cable is mine was coming out here on the back, and it was pretty tight going up to the front of the UTV. And I have a short UTV, mine's not long. So, you know, maybe on an ATV that would be a little bit better, but I went ahead and just rerouted that through this side instead. It's kind of right there up under the air filter. So that was pretty easy. It took like a minute to do that. So, but if you need to, you can reroute that. All right, well, we cut a good size area in a very short amount of time. So she did a really good job with that. The cut height was pretty good. It could probably come up just a little bit. And, you know, this is about, it gave me about a 3-inch cut through here, 3-4-inch cut. I could raise that up another inch or so, and I would do that with the tow bar, the adjustment on the tow bar. Now, if you saw sand flying up and everything, I don't want you thinking that I was scalping the ground or anything like that. It's real patchy back here. So you'll have grass, then you'll have just no grass, you know, in an area. And we have sandy loam. And so it's kind of sand and dirt mixed together. And anytime you run over it with a machine or the wind blows or something like that, that sand flies up in the air. It looks like a big dust bowl happening. Well, you know, with those blades under there spinning so fast, that's just what that was doing. It was just causing that sand to fly up in the air. But I mean, so the cut height was pretty good, but I might like it just a little bit higher. So the mower itself, man, I'm gonna tell you something. Let's start off with this engine. I'm gonna wipe some of this dust off here. So this is a Loncin. This is a V-Twin, 764 cc, about 24 horsepower engine. And that bad boy, she's a beast. That's a beast of an engine. That sucker, I mean, you can hear it, you can feel it. Compared to the XT, this sucker is just, it is definitely a level up on that. So the motor did fantastic. The mower did great. Also in the video footage from earlier, if you saw the wheels spinning, they weren't rolling on the ground. Just to go over that again. They weren't, or the mower wasn't rolling on those. I brought those up, and I think the vibrations, there's no way to lock this handle here. And so I think the vibrations just caused the wheels to kind of drop. But the mower, they didn't drop to where the mower was on them rolling. It just, you know, they were just barely grazing the ground as I rolled, you know, over it. So I don't know if there's a way to keep those from going down. I know on the XT, there's a little thing you thread in to keep that from turning at all, and this doesn't have that. So, but the mower did great. Just kind of thinking some of the upgrades on this heavier duty, right? It has a gate on it, so, and you can raise that gate. You can adjust it in the field. You don't have to have tools or anything, right? It's got that handle right there. The fuel system, I wasn't sure about the fuel system, but the more I think about it, I mean, I think it, you know, I don't have an issue with it. You know, it's kind of cool that if something were to happen to the tank, I could probably easily replace that, right, myself. So I kind of like that. I don't know. It's just definitely more heavy duty, heavier. It didn't bounce. With the XT, I feel like it had a little bit more bounce to it when you would go over certain areas, and this didn't seem to do that. And I'm going to say that that's probably because of the weight, right? It's an extra 300 pounds on this, so it seemed to do better there. The tow bar is, you know, that adjustment to get your height is much easier. I can do that right here. In fact, I already raised it 2 inches just sitting here, you know, just by turning this. I mean, this is me right now moving this, and if you watch those videos on the XT, that was much harder, and I actually installed an extra piece of kit on there to try to make that a little bit easier, and you don't even need that on this. This is super easy to lift up and get it onto your UTV. Yeah, I mean, just overall, this is definitely a heavier duty machine, and I mean, it does a great job. the just kind of swing around. You know, the grass was super high. I mean, you can see this, you know, this right here is, that's higher. This is higher than me. So this is taller than I am right now. So, you know, I'm 5'9", 5'10", right around in there. So, you know, we're getting close to 6 foot material in some of this. And I know that's, you know, that's not super thick right here, but you know, that is some really thick stuff down in there that you're cutting with it. So it did a good job cutting all of this, right? This is what that looks like now. So I did get into a little bit thicker stuff over here, but nothing major, you know, nothing too thick yet. We'll do a video on that. This was just the first initial outing with this, and but I really do want to see what it can do with some thicker material, thumb size and maybe larger, because the XT did pretty good with that. If you go back and watch some of the older videos with it, you'll see that we, you know, kind of went in and cut some trails with it, went through some thick stuff. So I'd really like to see how this one does with that too. We're just about at the season where I'll come out here and do that. So we'll have another video on this doing that. But just for cutting some simple trails, or even if you've got, you know, a small amount of acreage that you need to cut, and you know, you've got a UTV or an ATV, can't really afford a tractor at the moment, this is definitely a option for you. I would highly recommend looking into one of these. I love these things. This is a lot of fun to use these, and they do a really good job. So I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of maintenance on them. You know, check your air filter, you know, change your oil, make sure you put grease, right? There's labels on it where all the grease points are that you need to keep up with. You know, just do a few of those things, and I think this thing will probably last you a really long time, and just, you know, just kind of just easy upkeep. So yeah, well, she did a great job. I had a lot of fun with her, and I hope y'all enjoyed watching this. And again, we'll come back and do some more into some heavier material with her here soon. So, well, again, I appreciate y'all watching, and Lord willing, I'll see y'all on the next one.